What's better than one community newspaper? 3 community newspapers. This morning's guest will tell you why. Meet him. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Atlantic Eye, Laser Eye Center on Highway 17 bypass in Murrells Inlet, about a quarter mile south of Inlet Square Mall. We're focused on the news journals of Florence, Hartsville, and Marion County. And we're visiting with its publisher, Don Swartz. Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in early on a Wednesday morning.
My pleasure.
It's a very exciting opportunity to highlight these tremendous community newspapers and to see, thanks for bringing some of the copies in from last week. I know coming down here early on a Wednesday morning, y'all come out on, is it Wednesday in all 3 communities?
All 3 communities.
That's tremendous. Boy, so you are crazy on Monday and Tuesday, and I guess even on Wednesdays, getting everything out.
That's right, and deadline on Friday, so.
Is that right?
There's not a break.
There is no break. You know, a few years ago when I was looking at a community newspaper, the publisher at the time said every week comes very fast, Don. I guess you would echo that sentiment.
I sure would.
How exciting. What got you into the newspaper business, Don?
Well, it was my first job, and I started back in 1981, and my father was in the newspaper business.
Really?
So
was that in the PD area?
No, he was living in Charlottesville, Virginia. Right. And my first job was in Tampa, Florida for a shopper right outside of Tampa, Lutz, Florida.
Right, right. So you're originally from Florida or from Virginia?
Tennessee. From
Tennessee. Listen to that. Okay, I know that, of course, in reading a little bit about you, but was it Johnson City?
Johnson City, that's correct.
That's exciting. Do you still have family in that area?
I do. My father moved back there after he retired, and my brothers and sisters live there.
That's good. Do they come visit you in the PD much?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're close to the beach. So,
that's right, and they're hillbillies.
And they're close to the mountains, so you
right.
like getting up there. That's exciting, yeah. Of course, the news journals here in these 3 communities, have they always been the news journal?
No, the news journal always has in Florence.
Right.
And in Hartsville, it was a shopper, and Marion was a shopper, and then when I bought them approximately 2 years ago, I turned them into a community newspaper.
Right, right. For viewers who may not be familiar with shoppers, when you say shopper, that means?
More or less 100% advertisement.
Just all advertising.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, community newspapers, for viewers who, our viewers obviously know the Herald's the sponsor of the show. Whether they're here or in the PD, they may not see it much in the PD, but down here they have an idea of the Ori Independent, the North Myrtle Beach Times,
sure.
Coastal Observer, what community newspapers are. The big difference between a community newspaper and a daily is just the distinction between weekly and daily, or is it more than just that?
I like to take it a little bit further because my philosophy is I report. There's a lot of good things happening in all 3 communities.
Right. And
that's what we report on, are the good things that are going on in each community. And we invite the public to write in, call in, and if they've got something positive happening, we try to report it for them. And everybody likes reading about their mother and their family, their neighbor, cousins in the paper, and we want to get them all in there.
Yeah, yeah. So these are good newspapers.
Good newspapers.
I like that. Aside from being good newspapers, they're good news. Yeah, yeah. And of course, in Marion County, you're really reaching out to the entire county there. It's a pretty good-sized county.
Right. Marion and Mullins and all the other little towns surrounding it.
How much does the paper cost, Don?
It's free.
It's free. You're kidding.
Free.
Wow.
No, it's hard to beat free.
Yeah, it's not much cheaper than that.
No.
That's tremendous. And how do folks in the community, for our viewers here at the beach, who may not have seen the Marion County News Journal or the Hartsville News Journal or even the News Journal there in Florence, how would folks go about getting one?
Well, we're online.
Right.
And they can always call us, and we'll be glad to mail them one. Of course, we have outside of the area subscription rates.
Sure,
just for the mailing cost.
Right.
That's it. But and we're online.
Oh, yeah.
So all they have to do is give us a call, and we'll make sure that they get a paper.
That's tremendous. And in the community, let's pick out the News Journal there in Florence. How do your readers in Florence get it free? Do they pick it up at restaurants, at local, or is it delivered to their homes?
Well, we do have some bulk drop. what we call racks.
Good, yeah.
And then we have about approximately about 16,000 delivered to each home in Florence
Wow.
County, mostly in the
That's a
city
big deal.
limits and the
Right.
higher traffic areas, neighborhoods right outside the county. So.
Yeah, that's a big deal. What's that been like? Of course, there's a long time newspaper there in Florence,
Yes.
and you're familiar with that paper.
Yeah, and it's a very good paper, very
Right,
good
sure.
daily paper, and they're very talented.
Oh yeah.
And they're more or less of a regional paper, and we're just there for Florence.
Right. I saw in the city of Florence, I got to say, I went online to the FlorenceNewsJournal.com. You've got a great looking media kit there,
Thank
and
you.
the 2007 one highlights there in the city of Florence. No one has a better penetration
That's
to
correct.
residents in the city of Florence
That's
than the
correct.
News Journal. That's amazing. Did you plan it that way, Don? I mean, was that your modus operandi? I mean, was that what you were really focused on there to make sure that you really reached into the city of Florence
Right.
as well or better than anybody?
I wanted everybody to have a chance to get a paper,
Right.
and offered to them free, and you know, we out of 500, if we do a sample, 98% of them get it. So,
Oh, come on.
I mean, it's a number that we're proud of.
The auditors who come into, and when you say that, is that y'all making those calls, or do you have somebody
It's an
coming
outside
in?
auditor.
Outside auditors
Right.
come in to check that out.
Right.
You said 98%.
98%.
Wow,
That's
is tremendous.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
each property reflects those numbers. So
Each of the three different locations have similar numbers or identical numbers.
correct.
Wow.
So that just tells me everybody is interested in local, positive information.
Are there any other papers in Marion and Darlington counties in the Hartsville area?
There are some paid weeklies there.
Right.
And one in Marion and also one in Hartsville.
Boy, well, that's probably been a strange transition for them, seeing your news journals turning into community newspapers,
Sure.
and obviously
I'm sure it was.
impacting their communities. When you started that first position there, you said in Tampa, at a shopper.
Correct.
What prompted you to get interested in community newspapers? Clearly, shoppers and community newspapers are markedly different.
Well, I left the shopper and went to work for Mars Communications, which was a daily newspaper in St. Augustine,
Right.
which, you know, I was probably 22, 23 and get to live in St. Augustine. I wasn't going to turn that down.
That's right. Don't pass that up.
And from there, I just stayed with the dailies until about 7 years ago, and worked throughout the Southeast for different companies, and worked some out in California, and published a paper in Indiana and
Really?
Mississippi, and moved to the PD area and really liked it, and got tired of moving.
Yeah. And said PD was going to be home.
That home, and I got the opportunity to buy these 3 publications, and
Right.
and did that, and adopted 2 kids, and we're there to stay.
Is that right?
That's right.
Wow, that's a big deal, adopting 2 kids.
Yeah, that
Have they,
was a big
are they
deal.
old enough yet to get involved in the newspaper?
No, one's 5 and one's will be 2.
Not quite old enough
Not
yet.
quite old
yeah.
enough, and we adopted them from Russia, and they are real sisters,
How exciting. And they are birth sisters.
birth sisters.
Wow.
Isn't that neat?
That is. Congratulations.
And if that's our role in life, that's our role. So,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we adoption's hard, but we wouldn't turn them in. You know, it's great.
That's fantastic, Don. What an exciting opportunity. And just think that someday those girls could be taking
That's
over
right.
as publishers or one or the other. One maybe a publisher and an editor.
That'd
Which would
be
a great
great.
opportunity. You've got a lot of folks, some folks that have been with, I think I saw at the FlorenceNewsJournal.com, some folks that have been at your newspaper for a long time.
Our editor in Florence, Brenda Harrison, everybody knows Brenda in
Brenda
Florence.
Harrison, yes.
March 15th, she'll be there 20 years.
Oh, come on.
20
She
years.
will have been at the News Journal for 20 years?
20 years.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is.
And everybody reads Brenda, and everybody knows Brenda. And we've got another girl that's been there 18 years, and she's our production manager.
Is that right?
Beth Street, and I call them the backbone of the News Journal.
Yeah, the duo there.
Yeah, they are. They are the News Journal.
Yeah, those two. And of course, for you, the position as publisher, what exactly does that mean for viewers who, are you responsible for the editorial content? Are you responsible for a little bit of everything? What does that mean for viewers when they hear that you're the publisher, other than being the owner, obviously, of the 3 publications?
Of course, you handle all the financials. And with Brenda and the other editors I have at each other property,
Right.
when, publishing good news, there's not much for me to do there.
Yeah.
You know, and really financials, and get out and sell ads, and, be a part of the community and be active.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I know it's difficult, and obviously we hear about publishers that are in a position where, you know, sometimes you may have to cover things. Postage rates going up. Last week's paper you had here on the cover there, or things that are kind of difficult for folks to stomach, or oftentimes even stories about people in the community, they may not want to get them out. The publisher ultimately is responsible for that, and that can be kind of delicate at times. Yeah.
Sure. And when election time comes around, that gets very delicate.
Right. So, right. I'm sure, Don. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you get into the into the community, and you obviously spend a lot of time in the 3 counties, in Marion, Darlington, and Florence counties. As you get in there and see the response of having shaped some of these, turning them from shoppers into community newspapers, how's the response been over in Darlington and Marion counties?
Great.
Really?
I mean, absolutely great. We went there and we put in tubes if they wanted tubes at their house instead of thrown in a driveway or however. And if they didn't want it, we didn't deliver it, of course.
Right.
Because being on the finance side, it costs to deliver and it costs to print it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and our circulation numbers stayed the same, you know. So it was great. And as a matter of fact, our advertising picked up a little bit, and I just thought it was a very good move once we took it from a shopper to a newspaper, because your readership goes up automatically.
Right.
Because everybody wants to read about their friends and family, and and what's good in their community.
I like that. How about that? You say the tube. That's their mailbox.
They just stuff the paper in there. So
that is tremendous. How about for developments where there's a lot of folks living in a subdivision, for instance, and they have those mailboxes? If you don't mind me asking, I'm just interested as it relates to informational for viewers who may live in big subdivisions that have 100 mailboxes up front. That's an instance where you can reach them or reach a location in that subdivision there so that they can get it.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
And in the rural places, you know, if we can't get there, we'll have racks set up, you know, like a convenience store or somewhere close where there's a high traffic area where they can pick up paper up.
Good. You know, a lot of folks recently have been talking about the death knell of newspapers. Do you see that happening as it relates to the community newspaper world, Don?
Not the community. I mean, we're growing. Right now, I think there's probably 23,000 community newspapers through the United States, and that number's growing every month.
Right, yeah.
And I just think it's real good for each community.
Yeah.
To have their own identity. So.
In some communities, Hartsville's a relatively small community. I mean, to justify having, you said they've got a weekly paid newspaper, and then, of course, the Hartsville News Journal. That's it's a pretty small. What would be the population there in Hartsville? Do you have any idea? Not to put you on the spot.
Well, our circulation's around 13,000.
Is that right?
So you're going to look at probably approximately 20,000.
Yeah.
And that's just in the Hartsville community. In Darlington County, which is a pretty big county, we just concentrate there in the Hartsville community.
You're just focused right in Hartsville. That's tremendous. I see. And McBee there.
Yeah.
Serve in Hartsville and McBee. And McBee's in Darlington County as well.
Correct. And that's one of the few places we mail because it's real rural. And we won't make sure everybody gets a paper.
Oh, yeah. Very definitely. Very definitely. You know, as you think about all your years in print, some of the big changes that have happened, Don, since you joined the newspaper world back in your early 20s, not to date you there, but it's been a few years.
It's pretty much dating me.
Yeah.
I remember my first time it was paste up.
Paste up. Yeah, share with viewers the significance of paste up, exactly what that means.
You have what you call a flat, and then you wax, you know, your photograph on there, and you type, you wax that on there, and then you roll it down on what you call a flat. Then you take the razor and you cut down and trim the edges.
This is each page.
This is each page, each column, each square inch of the newspaper.
Lord.
I mean, you know, if you had a hot day and had to carry it somewhere to be printed, something slipped off, you know, the wax would melt in the car. You know, that was one of the biggest changes. And well, the first day I dropped an X-Acto and went right through my foot. It was the very first day. So I never wore tennis shoes to work when I was in production side of it.
Oh,
so,
I bet.
But and now everything is straight from computer to film, where you don't have the flats and
right.
and now if you print off site, you just use the internet and it just goes straight to the production part where you're having it printed.
How exciting, Don.
It's neat. It's neat.
As you think about that, we had a guest recently who was talking about a blue, some kind of pen you could, to make changes.
Yeah, you take your blue pen where it's non-photographic.
Right.
And so you need to change this, and then when you shoot that page,
right,
it wouldn't pick up that blue pen.
You wouldn't see the blue pen.
And then you've got the opaque markers where you take the negative and you have a little scratch on the negative. You take that opaque marker and mark through that scratch where it comes out white because everything's reversed. So
how exciting, Don, for you to see that transition from much of that only in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
To see that dramatic transition to everything now being, can you even imagine the day prior to all of this being sent by computers and uploaded to servers? And
take it on back, you had hot type, which was, very dangerous.
Yeah, what is that?
It's lead type where they would do their pages off that and instead of the offset press, which is done with plates. And
right.
You had hot type boxes where it go on the press and print the newspaper.
I can't.
And it's just, it's incredible. So
this is really fast forward when you think about for how many years they were doing it one way, and then in such a rapid pace.
Oh, it was quick.
That it has changed, made a transition to everything being computer driven.
It is.
And so much, I guess, your columnists. I saw you've got a big editorial board there.
I do.
At the Florence News Journal. Share with viewers what prompted you to get an editorial board like that. I mean, it's is that novel, or is that something you've seen in other places?
I've tried that at a couple other places when I was publishing daily papers.
Right.
And I thought it would work better in a free publication because you get different parts of the community on your board, as where you get your churches, bankers, you get the media side like advertising agencies.
Yeah, I saw that.
School teachers, and get them on your board, and that way they know a lot of people in the community, and
sure.
That way you can find some good stories and good success stories, and from these people on the board.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought that was a really good idea, and I put them in all three papers.
Is that right? That's tremendous. So you've got different editorial boards in each of the three papers.
And let them be a part of the editorial content.
Right.
Or help us focus on the editorial content.
Sure.
Because they represent a lot of readers.
Sure. And if they're at one church, let's say a pastor, one church, he or she will still give you leads
sure.
for good church stories in other communities, whether
success
it's
stories.
Someone in one ad agency, Woody Lynch, for instance, I saw was a name who may have been with you in the past. Yeah. He would give you leads for other ad agencies or other marketing firms.
And Woody's been a vital part of our board. And
is that right?
Yeah, and he's a friend too. So, so that helps. But
you had a great, tremendous lineup editorial board there in the Florence News Journal. I saw that online. I didn't even see the other two, but that's great to know. Well, you've also got a great submission form online for folks to send in ideas for stories
sure.
or otherwise.
And it's their paper, right. And we want their stories. We don't want to go out and make stories. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll go out and find them, but we don't want to make them. But we want the community to be involved in the paper also.
Right, right. I think I saw you all also members of the South Carolina Press Association.
Yes, and they just started all that recently.
Which takes on a big responsibility for,
sure.
Actually above and beyond
for
community newspapers that are free in publication. Right. Oftentimes that have been driven just by paid publications,
dailies.
But now respecting that community newspapers that are free can also get equal treatment.
And what has happened was, you take your big newspaper companies, they have bought these community papers and they want them to be part of the board. So that's basically how all this took place. And of course, I called the South Carolina Press Association, told them I wanted to be a member, and it's worked out good for them and for us because it gives the whole state more circulation in their newspapers.
Now, you had highlighted early in the interview, and if folks need to get off to work now or get family off to school, there is as you highlighted, that a true auditing, a circulation board that is brought on to make sure you all are doing what you claim to be doing. Not that you wouldn't be, but it is important to make sure that there are accurate figures, particularly on the behalf. We've seen in large newspapers some problems where folks have claimed one thing and it just wasn't happening that way.
Yeah. And, I guess that happens, but, I do it mainly for our advertisers.
Right.
And
Right.
I want them to understand that we are doing what we say. And I think the best policy is the honest policy. And if I got figures to back that, or an audit to back what we print, you know, I feel very confident going in there and telling them this is what we do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And here are the facts and figures.
Absolutely. Well, folks could see it online if they visit FlorenceNewsJournal.com, or of course each of these other two where they see the media kit. You've got a tremendous.
Well, thank you.
Of course, we're on a broadcast this morning, and you've got a great display of print versus broadcast, or print versus broadcast media. And there are some real benefits. What are some of the biggest benefits you see of a newspaper versus, let's say, a TV show or a radio station, for instance?
You could go back and look. You know, oh, I think I saw that in the paper.
Right.
And then you go back and look at the paper, and there it is. You
Yeah.
know, it's physical. You know, it's
Right.
there.
You can cut it out,
And,
mail it to people.
Right.
Right. And of course, the internet has taken it another level where
It
you
has.
can go on there and look at stories or
And
look at pictures. I think I saw you could buy some reprints, pictures reprinted and otherwise.
And I think the internet has hurt your paid circulation papers is the internet. That information's here. You know, I mean, you can get it at any time.
Right.
You know, and I think Yahoo, they post how long that headline's been there. You know, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So,
Oh Lord.
so and being a local paper, you know, you can't do that online.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and that's our biggest niche in the community.
Right. Right. How exciting, Don. What are some of the big highlights? I think the News Journal has some pictures from past years, from many years ago. What are some of the other big, for viewers who may not have seen the News Journal before and would want to get a copy, as you said, outside of the city and outside of other areas there in Florence, they can subscribe to the paper or otherwise. But what are some of the big things they'd see in the paper if they were picking it up for the first time?
Well, we always like to do a profile on the front page. We call it neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
And somebody, it's we
I
go out
see here, last Wednesday, the 20th, it was Amber Creel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we like to know their hobbies and who influenced them the most, and,
Right.
and their family and where they're from, and it's just being part of the community, and,
Oh, yeah.
and people love picking. Well, who is it this week? Oh, I know them. So
And do you do that in each community or just the...
we do it
right.
in all communities.
That's tremendous, yeah.
And all communities, they're pretty small communities and close knit, and
Right.
and a lot of people know everybody, and they know what's going on. So they like to see their aunts and
Oh,
uncles.
yeah, I love this idea, this neighbors right here on the front page, and to have Amber here, who was born in Florence, resides in Coward. She's a cashier at Avalon's. And, of course, the who or what has most influenced you, which is a great thing. I know this is last Wednesday, and that's the great thing. When we think about community newspapers, these sit in the home for many days oftentimes. They're really there. They have a much longer shelf life.
Correct.
That's the great thing, as opposed to we know, and I'm sure you're a subscriber to a daily newspaper, as are most of our viewers. They really have that just 30, 35 minutes possibly to spend, if that much. Wherein, obviously, a community newspaper, when we think about it as weekly, it is really around for the week.
You're exactly
and they're
right.
looking forward to that next week's paper, which is very exciting. That must be a great feeling for you, Don.
Well, I like it when they come up and say, "Put my picture in there this week."
Do you
okay.
hear that?
Oh, yeah.
You take notes? How do you handle that?
And then I just say, "Fine, yeah,
Call
we'll do
Brenda.
it.
Yeah.
We'll do it." And one of the biggest complaints that I get is, "I didn't get my paper today."
Oh, wow. Yeah, you've heard that.
Oh, I hear it continuously.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get my paper, and every Wednesday it rains, so my racks go down where I bulk drop, and the racks go down. But we make sure, and I call it right in, that they get their paper.
They get moving quick.
They get moving quick.
Sure,
So we've
sure.
got one special person deliver those missed papers,
Is that right?
and it
Yeah.
happens. But
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but it
Right.
does happen.
How, and as you're traveling around, and obviously you've got a big carrier big carrier group that handles getting this out, Don. That's a big responsibility.
We're looking at about over 40,000 papers a week.
Is that right? Y'all are printing more than 40,000 papers a week for these three communities.
Correct.
That is tremendous. What a big responsibility to take on. Well, that must really cause you to have to And of course, your editorial staff is in there making sure everything's just right, that all the content is exactly what you want to have. Are you thinking about other communities, Don?
I am at one point in time.
Yeah.
And really would. And
your girls are a little bigger.
Well, my girls are bigger, and get them in school.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But it's this almost 2 years now, and I'm going to let the dust settle a little bit more, and then we'll look some more.
I like, speaking of that question there, Don, what are your hobbies or special interests? I like these, the neighbor's question. Let's say you were profiled here. Of course, you're Don Swartz. Your family is there in Johnson City. You were born in Johnson City. You reside in Florence. Your occupation, you're the publisher. How about hobbies or special interests, Don? 2 girls.
Well, of course, the 2 girls, and
Beautiful
play
bride.
golf.
Right, you're a golfer. Good.
Play golf.
You find that is a good way to bond with advertisers, possibly, or just in the community?
Most people
Your
I play
editorial
golf,
board.
they advertise, or they wouldn't get to play golf with me. I'm kidding.
Listen up.
I'm not going to win a bet anymore now.
No more betting. That's right. You've been knocked off. How about this last one? Who or what has most influenced you?
I like that question.
Yeah. Who or what has most influenced you? And of course, Amber Creelier said, my parents. They raised me right and taught me not to judge people.
I think that's a great question, and I think a lot of people love answering that and giving their parents or the Lord Christ credit, and you see that a lot, and I really like that, and I like being part of the Christian community, which our paper is, and I really like that, and that's part of the news journal and all 3 properties.
You have a pastor on each of the editorial boards.
I sure do.
Right.
Yes.
That's very important. And of course, oftentimes, folks, the great thing about that is it's not denomination driven. Obviously, it's driven by the idea of having somebody from a church or another place of worship, and the opportunity to really reach out that way.
And I think that perspective is very important to the community.
Okay, great. Don, thank you very much. We won't highlight all these questions with you, but we'll get you back another time.
Okay,
I'm sorry
great.
we've run out of time. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Clearly, we've run out of time, but you can take the time to either go online or pick up a copy of the Florence News Journal, the Hartsville News Journal, or the Marion County News Journal. Don Swartz.